Hi there everybody and welcome back to this channel. My name is Cris and I'm the manager at Paissa and Bernat. On this channel, what we do is that we take you through the steps of wedding planning, we answer your questions, we also show you the venue inside out, but also we interview suppliers. So in this week's video, we are interviewing Ibiza-based celebrant OSO. And here he is. Hi OSO and welcome to this channel. I'm so glad that you're here with us this week. It's just lovely to have someone that's an expert on the matter, telling us a little bit more of what to expect of the ceremony. What we want to do here on this channel is give couples the knowledge of, the different parts of the wedding day, and there's a lot of work that does go into it. So it's worth highlighting that and I'm very, very pleased that you're here. Thank you so much for being on this channel.
Thank you so much for having me. It's amazing.
So I'm thinking that the best way that we can start off this interview is by actually speaking out to the couples, and what I want to do is I want to take you on to somewhere that's a little bit more familiar to you, and then I'm going to pass that on to OSO so that he can actually take you into what the ceremonies are. So most of you have come to us physically or via video and you've explored the venue. I've shown you the different parts. So basically what I have done is that I've told you with no soul what all the different parts of the venue are, what their purpose is. But I think that someone like OSO can actually explain to you what happens in that specific moment and actually what that area is going to feel like. So if you would like to take it on from there.
Okay, so I love weddings at Paissa, and I think the best way that I can explain it is to take couples through how I work myself on a wedding day at Paissa, because I've got a particular way of doing things and it's a little bit different to how other celebrants work, but I think it will give couples a real good idea of how things work, because it's a really special venue. So let me start by saying this. I'm a wedding celebrant. I create and I conduct wedding ceremonies. When I do it, I start with a blank piece of paper and I create something that's completely unique to a couple. All of that goes into the work before the wedding day itself. On a wedding day, I like to be at Paissa early. I like before the friends and family turn up. I love to host them. This is the home of this particular couple's wedding. I want the guests to feel at home every bit as much as the couple feels at home at the venue on that particular day. So what I do is I want to make sure that I can get around everyone, mingle with them, tell them a little bit about Paissa. Everybody sees that incredible pool. Everybody sees that incredible view. Everyone remarks on the color of the stone and how beautiful the property is. But there are so many other parts to the venue that I really, really want to draw attention to those things as well. And I really want for everyone to feel settled and feel at home. The reason I do it is so that when they sit for the wedding ceremony and the couple finally arrive underneath that arch, I've got them. I've completely got everyone. They're really excited to be in this incredible venue. They've got that amazing view behind them that they can see. And finally, they know who I am at this stage because I've already spoken to them. I've already connected with them. And so they're really ready to receive the wedding ceremony. So that is just the very, very beginning of how I like to present myself, let's say, on a wedding day at Paissa.
Let's talk about what ceremonies are. Obviously, I overlook this when I do the visits and I just speak about it as if, oh, this has to be done. It has so much meaning. This is the part of the day that tells the story of the couple and everyone that's there. I also have this in meetings when they'll say like, yeah, well, we'll get the ceremony done and then we can get on to drinks and have some fun. But it's true, and I understand that, because I think they're thinking more in terms of that kind of church service or very, very rigid part of the day, and it's just not like that, and it's very difficult for me to tell them that because obviously they haven't seen it. So I think it's worth that you explain to people what is and why is it different, and why is it even, in my opinion, better a ceremony under the trees with the sea behind, as opposed to what maybe they're used to.
So I think you're right. I think a lot of guests and a lot of couples are used to either church ceremonies, which are religious in nature, or civil ceremonies, and tend to have a lot of legal language in them. And neither of those types of ceremonies are especially personal to the couple. And that's what I love about celebrants, is that they can be completely personal to the couple. So I think it's really important for couples to know that they have a lot of options when they're considering how they want their wedding ceremony to be. There's a lot of ways that they can go with this. And the reason they can go in a lot of different ways is because they are not obligated to have legal language, and they're not obligated to have any religious language. So it can be completely about what they want it to be about. And that is something that when they find the right celebrant for them, they'll have a match in terms of how the celebrant works and the story that they want to tell as part of their ceremony on a wedding day. It's really, really exciting, you know. And certainly for me, I can only speak for myself, because other celebrants work differently. But for me, I create completely bespoke ceremonies for my couples. I quite literally hold up a blank piece of paper to a couple when I first do a video chat with them or meet them. And I say to them, this is what we're starting with. And I create something that's really personal to the two of them.
This blank piece of paper, Oso, to me sounds overwhelming. It sounds like homework. How is it with your couples? Have you scared anyone off just for doing this? Or, you know, because it sounds like a lot of work, because obviously these ceremonies, they know from what I've told them that it's going to last 30 minutes. So blank piece of paper, 30 minutes is like, ooh, you know, how does it work? You know, how is the process from the minute that they book you, or maybe even before, until the moment that all of that is prepared for them to be on the day? And that, you know, the idea is that all of this is done before, and they're not stressed on the day. It's super easygoing. You know, no nerves, no nerves at all, right?
Well, no nerves outside of the natural nerves that I think that any couple would have anyway. But I think it's important to know, I've never scared anyone off in my life, Cris. I've never scared anyone off. I'm a big, lovable, huggable bear. That's who I am. You know, and so no, it's really important to know. You ask a brilliant question, because you're absolutely right. As soon as I hold up the blank piece of paper, I think a lot of couples do get daunted, but I tell them immediately. I work with many professional couples that they work really long hours. They don't have an awful lot of time, and when they do, they're a little bit worried that this is what they're going to be having to do, and it's going to be really taxing. I always tell them, it's not going to take up a lot of your time, it's not going to take up a lot of your energy. It's really important for all couples to know this. Most of the work is done by me, and all of the fun is had by them. Then normally what happens is be that initial call, a questionnaire, and then 1 or 2 short calls afterwards, and then that's it. I do get to see my couples before the wedding day once they've arrived on the island, and maybe we'll have a virtual rehearsal, and then there's the wedding day itself. It's really, really simple, and more importantly than anything else, it's really fun, and it helps keep couples connected to their wedding day.
We've understood what the ceremony is, but could you kind of sum up what are the elements that compose that part of the day?
Wedding ceremonies will consist of an introduction to Ibiza and to the venue, for example, a little story about the couple. And ceremonies will often contain, for example, an exchange of vows. Couples would sometimes like to say words to one another that they've written themselves. They'll often contain a ring exchange. I've only ever done one wedding ceremony where the couple said, we don't want to exchange rings, and we did another little ritual for them instead.
Fair enough.
But often yeah, exactly. But often there's a beautiful blessing of the rings that I do, and an exchange of the rings by the couple. I like to include other kind of mini ritualistic elements that really show who a couple is and how they combine. One of the popular ones that I think a lot of couples watching will know will be the sand ceremony, you know, where couples actually blend 2 vials of sand in a central container. And as it blends, there's some beautiful words that's said over it, you know, and it's said historically that as the sands blend, so their lives and their loves and their thoughts and their ideas and their futures blend together as well. It's a really beautiful thing. But there are many other rituals too. certainly with me, I think of them as celebrations that can connect couples deeply to one another, but really, really bring in all of the friends and family who've traveled quite long distances in order to witness something really, really special.
Exactly.
You know?
It's so important to draw everyone's attention in, because the ceremony usually, like, we think about this in terms of like when it's a church wedding, and you always see people looking to the side, looking at their phone, you know, contemplating, and you know, they're not there, they're not present, they're not listening, then their attention isn't there. So I guess a big question would be like, how to overcome this, you know, like what is I don't want to know your secrets, but this is unique to you, obviously. But I mean, I noticed that in the last wedding that I presenced of yours, that I could see that everyone was there and eyes focused on you, listening. It was very, very, very nice. But how do you success in this? You know, it's quite nice to see. I saw it from the back, so it was really, really nice to see.
Well, you're right. I'm not giving you the secret sauce. There's no way I'm giving you the secret sauce, Cris. No one is going to know this. No, I'm kidding. For me, it just comes from the heart. It comes from within. You know, I tell all my couples, it's really just a very, very strong connection that I have with them. And I look at wedding ceremonies, as I say, as celebrations. I look at them really holistically. To me, and I think you mentioned this before, actually, a lot of couples can feel quite disconnected from what their wedding ceremony is to the rest of their wedding day. And absolutely, the wedding ceremony, it sets the tone for the rest of the day. There's not going to be anyone looking at their phone or bored or twiddling their thumbs. Not on my watch. That's not happening, you know. I do a lot of stuff before the ceremony itself, with the couple and without the couple, to make sure that doesn't happen. I really, really want to bring people in, you know. I want to create an experience. It should be an experience. They're already having an incredible experience visually, you know, by what they see at Paissa, and this dreamy feeling that it kind of evokes within people who come there. They can never believe it. And I always think, and I say to my couples, I want to take those feelings and I want to bring them together with something that's really substantial in the words, something that's really, really meaningful, so that I can put everyone in a rocket and shoot them up into the sky. That is what I want to do, and have them sit on a high for the rest of the day. And all of those feelings and emotions created during the ceremony, it really sets the tone for an amazing wedding day. There's a huge difference between when it's done right, you know, and when it's just a boring wedding ceremony that just doesn't capture anyone's attention. It affects the rest of the day. A lot of it is very, very dependent on the celebrant that you choose. And as I say, I think having a really strong personal connection and also understanding what your friends and family are like, there's a good chance that many of them will have similar, for example, similar senses of humor to yourself, or a similar way of expressing themselves, perhaps, you know. And I think choosing a celebrant that's very much in line with who you are as a couple means that they will connect with your friends and family that much easier, and that means they're more likely to engage them as well. But for me, it's paramount. It's absolutely what I want to do, is get everyone up there on a level, you know. I want all the friends and family feeling the intense feelings that this couple are feeling, and I want to bring everyone together. Everyone should be together, you know. I don't know, but I just think about wedding ceremonies a little bit differently, perhaps, to how other wedding celebrants do, mostly in the sense that, you know, like I said, I think about them as part of this entire day and what it can do. You know, it's an enormous opportunity to really bring everyone in and put them all up on a high, you know.
So the first question would be, do I need to have a celebrant? Is it something that is needed, basically? And if so, does it have to be someone that I hire? Could it be a friend? You know, like, what are the options, and does it really need to happen?
So yes, I would say if you're having a ceremony, then you do need someone who is going to host that ceremony. And a majority of the time, I'd say a good, 95, 96% of the time, couples opt for a professional celebrant to either create and host or simply host their wedding ceremony. But that's not to say that you have to do it. The other main option that you could do is to have a family member or a friend conduct the ceremony for you. And that can sometimes be really, really beautiful. It's got a few pros and cons to it. Mostly the pros are that it can make it really, really personal, and it can be really meaningful for the couple to have a friend or a close family member actually conduct their ceremony and speak truly meaningful words. And the other pro is that if you're a couple who has a particular budget that you're working within, you can save a little bit of money by opting to go with a family member instead of a professional celebrant.
However, now, what are the side effects of maybe not having someone that is used to this job? Because, I think it's great that you get a friend in that's experienced, maybe someone speaker, but what happens if they're not,
Well, that's the thing. That's always the thing. A scenario that I come up with a lot is that I will hear from couples, and this is when I have to do a lot of last minute work. I will often hear from couples who've decided on a friend or family member very early on, and that's who's going to do their wedding ceremony. And then at the last minute, that person drops out because they haven't. Yeah, it's a shame when it happens, but they haven't necessarily put the ceremony together properly. They don't feel confident enough doing it. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure to do it.
It's a big job.
Yeah.
It is a big job.
It's a big job. So for one thing, if you're a couple and you're asking someone to do that for you, a friend or family member, it pretty much means that at least for that part of the day and a significant amount of planning time before your wedding day will be spent by them working. And
they don't realize, how much work goes into it.
There's a huge burden. There's a huge burden on the person who you're asking to do it, especially if they're not professional. They need to understand what questions to ask. They need to build an entire structure of a ceremony, but they may not necessarily be a professional speaker. They may not feel confident doing it. They may not be able to include perhaps the more ritualistic elements of the day that might be included by a professional celebrant. And I think maybe what's more important, and this is really dependent on your celebrant as well, that you decide or not decide on, is that the person that you choose, the friend or family member, they may not necessarily be able to know how to bring the couple together and have them feel really special. On their wedding day, connect to them deeply, because that's what a ceremony is about. Right? Exactly. They could have their head stuck in the speech or whatever they've actually created for the couple, and it just isn't necessarily.
That would be if they asked me to be their celebrant. I would be tripping up on the words and I'm feeling terrible.
Yeah, it's not a lot of people find it daunting. So it's really, really beautiful. It can be really beautiful. And I think you can attest to one or two ceremonies that you've seen by friends that have been really, really beautiful, But the difference is that it's just not guaranteed, and there can be all kinds of things that can go awry. So if you want, and I think if you're planning a wedding, you've got enough stresses as it is. So I think you kind of having the very fun process of being able to choose a celebrant, have someone professional do it, knowing that you've got someone who is a pro, and then having that person connect with you over your wedding ceremony in the run up to it, I think is a really beautiful thing. For me, I always tell my couples the process, the actual creation of the ceremony is just as exciting for them as the wedding day itself. You'd never believe it, but it's absolutely true. It really connects you to it.
I'd love to kind of be able to see into that, and watch the whole process. I'm sure that it's fantastic. I think this kind of leads us onto a very good question. There are lots of celebrants on the island, and there's big differences between them. Obviously, everyone's completely different. but then how would you bulk these services just so that people understand the different options out there?
Every celebrant is completely different. Obviously, everyone's personality is completely different, and you need to gel with your celebrant's personality. As I said, they represent who you are as a couple on your wedding day. But if I had to separate celebrants, I would separate them into two main categories. So you basically have celebrants who have a ceremony that they have written, that's pre-written, and that they perform for couples on a wedding day. It may have a degree of personalization to it, but more than likely it's a ceremony that they have created and largely repeat for every couple. It can be warm, it can be beautiful, it can be really, really gorgeous, and that it can be very, very suited for certain couples who don't necessarily want a great deal of personalization for their ceremony. The other types of celebrant that you get are celebrants who do personalize their ceremonies, and they do that to different degrees. For me, as I say, I start with a blank piece of paper, and it's not daunting, and it doesn't take a lot of time, it doesn't take a lot of energy. But I would say, yeah, personalized and non-personalized.
I see the marketing material out there, and I think lots of people use the word bespoke when it's actually not bespoke. And I do realize how much work goes into a real bespoke wedding, So how would that be better than saying right, well, instead of spending a few more €100, which is actually the difference is not that big, but instead of spending this much money, I'm going to spend a little bit less, and I'm just going to go with this script, as opposed to doing something that's customized to me. I feel like it's like a tailored suit. I think it's worth you explaining a little bit, why would that be better than going on a script?
I would say the biggest difference is the feeling that comes out from something that's truly bespoke compared to something that is a script that is read time and time again. The biggest difference really is the feel that comes from it. With a bespoke ceremony, you can really captivate the couple, and you can really captivate the friends and family, and it'd be just a lot more meaningful because it's so personal to who they are as people and so special to them. It's created just for them. It can't help but be special. It's good to have these kind of conversations, because I think what's more important than any of this is really for couples to understand that this is something that they should be investing their time in making a decision about, in the same way that they choose their photographer. I think they need to do the same thing with their celebrant as well. It's something that I think is really important. It's an important choice to make. And like I said, we're presented with weddings in a very visual way. We consume them visually. We look at beautiful tablescapes that we see photos of on Instagram.
Wow.
We see lovely moments that are presented in little video clips. But you don't connect with how it smells, how it tastes, how it feels, to be right there and then in that ceremony on that day, what the feelings of the couple are. I think a good ceremony and a good celebrant can do that. That's the difference between having something bespoke and having something that is pre-written.
I think we're close to finishing, so I'm going to ask you another final question, and that is kind of the conclusion of the ceremony, the moment where you're wrapping it all up, you're putting a nice big ribbon to it, and you're going to send the couple down the aisle, how is that moment? I'm getting excited all about it. Just thinking about it.
Oh, I love this. I love it. No one ever asked me about the end of ceremonies. They ask me about ceremonies holistically, but they never ask me about the end of ceremonies. And I love the end of the ceremony. I love everything about a ceremony, but there's something about that moment at the end of a ceremony when you wrap everyone up. And as I said, I really feel at that moment that I can bring this couple together and really raise everyone up and bring everyone together, get them on their feet, and get them shouting, stomping, clapping, dancing in the aisles, really, really get them excited about this couple. And one of the things, even though every ceremony of mine is different, one of the things that I do in every wedding ceremony is I ask the friends and family who are there to give of themselves, really give of their love, of their energy, of their strength to this couple, and send them up the aisle with this enormous boost of energy and life and love, because they deserve nothing less than that. It's exactly what they deserve. And they're not just walking up the aisle, they're walking into the rest of their day, they're walking into the rest of their lives together, you know? And so everybody gets behind them in this enormous celebration. You know, I'm loath to say sometimes that they're ceremonies, because what I create, the way that I look at it, they are celebrations of life. And is there anything bigger than a wedding celebration? Two people coming together. To me, it's why I love what I do. So that moment is just absolutely wonderful.
What you were saying before, it sets the tone of the reception. You know, you're on a high. You're on an absolute high. Yeah,
absolutely.
How exciting!
I love it. I love it. It gives me goosebumps talking about it.
I can't wait to get going.
It's going to be fab. I mean, I'm really, really looking forward to this season.
Anyway, Nigel, it has been such a pleasure to have you here. I am so pleased that we've had this conversation. I'm sure that everyone is going to, love, being a part of this. And also, it would be great that if you don't mind, we're going to put your contact out in case they've got any questions, that they can get in touch with you. If in case they've decided that they wanted a friend to conduct the ceremony and they've changed their mind based on this conversation, and they thought, we don't want this to happen a month before. So if that's okay with you, we'll be putting that out for everyone.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. More than welcome. Put my details out over there. And it's been lovely to do this with you, Cris. It's just always really lovely to see you. And I love it. I mean, I love talking about weddings, and I love talking about weddings at Paissa. There's just something there's something so special about them,
2022 is going to be very, very special because, as you know, there's been lots of postponements, and we're so looking forward to it. This is the time, like nothing is stopping this season of happening, and it's just fun, isn't it?
No, it's true. You're right. Some of these couples that I'm working with, I've been waiting a long time to see them on the island, and we may have connected, during various calls and things like that at various points, but it's not the same as being there when the day finally arrives, right? Of course not. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, very, very excited. Nigel, again, thank you so, so much. For everyone that's watching, please remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. We're doing this with other suppliers. We'll be covering other topics. Very looking forward to the season to get started. And until next time, take care, everybody. Bye.
Ciao.